And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Sachere, the lead beat writer at North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. You can follow me on Twitter at Sachere Grant, my last name and first name. And if you have a hard time trying to spell that, just pull out the Tony Sachere's out of your cabinet, look at it, you'd be like, oh, that's how you spell it. So, just when you think of my last name, think of Tony Sachere. I think that's probably the easiest way to explain it. But also make sure to go follow Tar Heels on SI on Twitter. And also make sure to go do the same thing on Facebook. Go like our page and you'll automatically follow it. And all of our posts will be there. We're going to have clips and stuff like that. So it's moving along pretty well. But today, on today's episode, which by the way, happy Sunday. Tomorrow will be a week. We're a week from tomorrow. Well, I don't know how you say it, but basically we're a week away. Tomorrow's Monday, and then the following Monday, of course, kicks off the season against TCU. Very, very exciting time here in Chapel Hill. Everyone's excited. And I actually talked about that in a previous episode about the mood in Chapel Hill. And a lot of this because of the Bill Belichick's the coach. That's for starters. But also there's a lot of unknowns. And I think that's very intriguing for a lot of people, right? You have a coach who is a Super Bowl winning champion, and you have a team that has 70 new players on it, 40 of which were added after the season was over. And then, you have all these unknowns. It's just all these unknowns. What the offensive line is going to look like. What is the receiver room? Who's going to be the new number one receiver? Who's going to be the guy that becomes the bell cow after Omarion Hampton? Went to go to the NFL. And of course, will the defense be finally good, right? Because there's a lot of Tar Heel fans who are like, damn, our defense sucks. Like, it seems like that every year. But I think this year it's different with the new coaching staff. I think Stephen Belichick is a great defensive play caller. He's proven that he could be a great defensive play caller without his dad watching over his shoulder. He did that last year in Washington. Washington was one of the worst defenses the year before he got there. When he got there, they became a top 30 defense and were the number 2 passing defense in the country. So if you look at those statistics, I think North Carolina defense can improve. And the reason why I'm saying all this is because, I've been doing a lot of articles. I've done 3 articles the last 3 days, which previewed each month of the season. So I predicted, broke down the game a little bit, like kind of brief preview of the game, each game. I already did the schedule breakdowns. I think you guys have already seen that, but I also did, a quick summary of that game and who's on the team and blah, blah, blah. And then I gave my prediction for each game, right? Through the month of September. Through the month of November. I just finished November. It should be up at, it should be up by the time this video gets uploaded. But make sure you go check that out. But I did my schedule prediction. And so, with that being said, let's look at the schedule. And let's break it down, shall we? So, TCU, first game of the year. Everyone's really excited, right? Bill Belichick's his first game in Chapel Hill. You have ESPN coming down. They're going to bring their big game crew. So Kirk Herbstreit and Reese Davis are going to be on Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler will be on the call. You got kind of the college game day crew. Pat McAfee's going to be there. But then also you got some special guests. Nick Saban, is already on the college game day crew. By the way, it's really notable that Nick Saban was an assistant under Belichick with the Browns. So Saban is actually a member of Belichick's coaching tree. And then also I think Nick Saban served as an assistant with Bill's dad, actually, if I remember correctly. If I remember looking that up the other day. Yeah. So Nick Saban was also assistant with Navy when Bill's dad, Steve, was also an assistant with Navy. So there's some very interesting connections there as well. And then Teddy Bruschi actually will be there. He'll be kind of part of the be a part of the crew and everything like that. Of course, Teddy Bruschi was a long time New England Patriot. Played with the Patriots. Forever. I think pretty much his whole entire career, if I remember correctly. Teddy Bruschi played with, he played with the New England Patriots throughout his whole entire career from '96 to 2008, mostly with Bill Belichick, and of course he won 3 Super Bowls with Bill Belichick. So he's a very integral piece of the Patriots dynasty, the first one, of course, when they won 3 Super Bowls in the early 2000s. And he was big time, even though he wasn't really like an all-pro, like every year all-pro or Pro Bowl guy, but he was one of the most notable people on that defense. And, he was probably the leader of that defense, if to be honest, because he played his whole entire career with the Patriots and was a key member of the early 2000s Patriots dynasty. So this could be a lot of excitement there. Of course, the hype's going to be big. You're going to have media members from all over the country. And the reason why I know this is simply because the last media availability, there was actually a reporter from the Boston Globe. That same reporter did the story on Bill Belichick, where Bill Belichick was throwing shade at the Krafts and everything like that. I actually covered that in one of my articles, too, if you want to go check it out. But the fact that we already have dudes from the Boston Globe already in Chapel Hill lets me know that there's going to be much more come Labor Day. So the press box is going to be pretty packed. But for the TCU game, I like UNC's chances. I think they do have a great chance of winning that game. I really do. But I have a concern. My concern is that TCU is an experienced team. They have a lot of starters coming back. They have chemistry. Most of those, even the guys who were in the transfer portal, they were already there throughout the spring. And there's chemistry. You got your quarterback coming back. That is huge. You have 3 of your 5 starters coming back from the year before, and the other 2, one was supposed to be a starter last year, but he got hurt, and then the other guy actually played in the bowl game. So there is chemistry there on that team. And compared to UNC, who has 70 new players, it's UNC is kind of at a disadvantage. So I think they'll hang in there, of course, because you got coaching staff. I think you have enough players. I think UNC has enough players to make that thing interesting. However, I'm worried about UNC going against a team that already has chemistry, and that's huge. That's the biggest thing in any sport, right? No matter what it is. And when you think about this. UNC has a new quarterback, Gio Lopez, although he's experienced, still new quarterback. Then you're replacing Omarion Hampton, who was a large part of the offense last year, probably was the offense, if you want to be honest. On the offensive line, 2 year starters may be out, right? Because we already know Austin Blasky's out. He's gonna be out for the first month of the season. Now, Christo Kelly, who's been proven, he's one of the leaders on this team, even though he's been here for a short time. He's injured. He might be injured for this game as well. He had a foot injury. No, there's been no updates on him and whether or not he's going to play. But it's just you're going to be missing 2 of your starters, and then on top of that, you have a true freshman starting at left tackle, and I think Aiden Buchanan could be solid. Right? He's not. The fact that a true freshman is starting at left tackle shows you how good he is, right? Because Bill Belichick, doesn't put an 18-year-old out there at left tackle, they don't think he's good. Period. He's not afraid to play younger guys. But TCU, they got I mean, they have their defensive line back. Most of their defensive line back is back. Their defensive line is actually really, really good. Really, really good. And that's, how will UNC's offensive line match up against them, right? And then you're kind of worried about who will step up as your number one receiver. Who's going to be the next man up? That's a major concern. That is a huge concern because TCU actually had a solid defense last year. A very solid defense. And they're led by a guy, Bud Clark, who has been there forever. He's been there forever. He's a 6-year guy. But he was an all Big 12. He was an all Big 12 safety last year. So there's going to be experience in the defensive backfield. And the defensive line, you have Marcus Neal, who's 6'5" and over 300 pounds. He's a returning starter, 21 tackles, 5.5 sacks. The 5.5 tackles for loss in the sack. You got Zach Chapman, who had 3 sacks last year, played in all 13 games as a rotational player, 6'5", 255. Ansel Dean-Boo, 6'3", 290 at defensive tackle. He's a Washington State transfer. And he also had 24 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks as an interior defensive lineman. That's really good, regardless of the level. And then Devin Deal. He was an all Big 12 guy last year. 46 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, and 5.5 sacks, which led the team. So this is a very experienced group on TCU's defensive line. And then on top of that, you got the linebackers with Nnamdi Obiazor and Caleb Alarms, who've both played over 1,000 snaps. I think TCU is a little bit more experienced. It's not so much I think TCU is the better team. I think you could say they're the better team because a lot of their production is coming back. And you got a guy like Josh Hoover who threw for nearly 4,000 yards last year and could have a very big year. I just think UNC is just at a disadvantage because of the lack of chemistry because they only had 70 guys come in. They've had 70 new players, 40 of which are coming after the spring. And then on top of that, Bill can really evaluate them. He even told everyone in the meeting rooms that he can really evaluate them because you can't do a true evaluation process until you get in the pads. And, of course, you got to wait 2 weeks throughout the fall camp to get in the pads. So UNC might be at a disadvantage there. And then also I think TCU's offense is a really, really good offense. Sonny Dykes has done a great job with his offense no matter where he's been, whether it's at Louisiana Tech, whether it was at Cal, whether it was at SMU, now is at TCU. He's also a member of the Mike Leach coaching tree, which is one of the best coaching trees in college football. He's an offensive guy. And if there's any weakness in UNC's defense, he's going to exploit that. And I think TCU is going to win. I don't know how much it's going to be. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a high-energetic crowd at Kenan Stadium. And I think the crowd's going to play a factor. I think the UNC players will be fired up. I think the coaching staff is going to do a great job in calling a great game plan. But I just think TCU right now is a better team. And on top of that, they have more chemistry. And they've been together, and they've been in these tough situations. This is a proud program. They went to the college football playoff 3 years ago. They know the expectations of TCU. TCU has had more 11-win seasons than North Carolina's had winning seasons since 2000. I just want to put that in perspective. Well, I won't say more. I think it's more like they've had more. I think it's just about the same. I'm not sure if it's more, but it's not far off from each other. And this TCU program has been one of the most consistent in college football since the turn of the century. So this is a proud program. This is a great program. They have a lot of tradition. They have Heisman Trophy winner. You start looking down into history, that's a really good program. It is. So I think so I'm sorry for the long preview of TCU. We're going to have even longer of those as the week goes on. But I think UNC loses that one. Charlotte's a very interesting one. Of course, it's going to be played at Charlotte. I think North Carolina's a better team. This is a game they should win. But then again, Charlotte, this is an in-state game. This is against another in-state school with a lot of North Carolina kids. I think this game could be interesting, but I think North Carolina is going to win. I think they're going to win comfortably. I would say like 38-17 or something like that. I think it would be a kind of a slow start, and then North Carolina will start, showing why they're the better team. Richmond, self-explanatory, FCS opponent. Although I will say this: Richmond is a very good FBS opponent. They won 10 games last year. I think they've been in the playoffs like the last three or four years at the FCS level. So this is another proud program, right? Even if it is an FCS school, this once again is a proud program. They've won a national championship before in their program. They won one in 2008. And in the last 3 years, they made it to the playoffs. They went 9-4 in 2022. They went 9-4 in 2023, and then went 10-3 last season in 2024. So, and I think right now they are a ranked team at the FC. I think they're a preseason top 25 team. They're number 25 exact. So that's a very good FCS program, but North Carolina's going to win. I just want to point that out. I think North Carolina's going to win. UCF, that's the next game on the list. That will be a very tough game. I think that is a game that North Carolina wins. I really do. But the thing is, UCF, that is an extremely tough place to play. Like, extremely tough place to play. And if you look at UCF, if you look at their home schedule, not their home schedule, but their home record, since it opened in 2007, they're 85-30. And they've also hosted 4 conference championships during that time and won all of them. This is also another proud program. UCF is one of the better mid-majors in college football. And yes, they're coming off of a 4-8 season. But UCF, every single time they have a losing season, they always improve the year after. They always do. They just do. For example, they went 0-11 in 2004 in George O'Leary's first year. Yes, that George O'Leary. The next year, they ended up going to the Conference USA Championship. I'll give you another example. The year after they went to the Conference Championship, they went 4-8. The next year, they went 10-4 and won the Conference USA Championship. Fast forward to 2008. Same thing. 4-8, 5-7 a year. The next year, they had a winning record. I believe they went 8-5, and then the year after, they won the Conference USA Championship again. In 2011, they also had a losing season. I think they went 5-7. 2 years later, they win the Fiesta Bowl. They win the Fiesta Bowl over a top 10 Baylor team. So, and then also fast forward, in 2015, they went 0-12. The next year, in Scott Frost's first year, who, by the way, is now is in the second stint as the UCF head coach. He just took the job over the offseason. Fast forward to 2015, they go to 0-12. The next year, they go 6-6. They go to a bowl game, although they did lose. They went to a bowl game, and then the year after, they had their 13-0 undefeated team that they claim were the national champions. But however, I will say this: they did beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl, so who did beat Alabama. And then Alabama won the national championship. So I guess if you want to do that logic, yeah, sure, UCF's the national champions. But they're not. John Shipley, if you are watching this, I apologize for sliding your national championship team. I'm sorry. But I'm not apologizing at all. By the way, John Shipley is one of our managing editors. He's also the Jacksonville Jaguars beat writer. So if you are a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, go check out his work. He does a lot of great work. But, I had to do that because I just slided UCF, which is his alma mater. But anyway, Clemson. I think this is another interesting game. This game It could be a high-profile one, especially, let's say, hypothetically, North Carolina does beat TCU. UNC could be 4-0 against a possible, a Clemson team that could be a top 3 team going into that game. And it could be a high-profile game. It could be a college game day type of game. You don't think ESPN wants to come to Chapel Hill to do college game day, especially if Bill Belichick's here. They're going to try to do it. If they're going to find a game that they come visit, and this might be it. And I think Clemson will win this game. I think that North Carolina make North Carolina 3-2 at the moment, but I think this game could be close. But I think Clemson pulls away. But once again, I think Clemson is going to win this game. I think they're the better team. They're a national title contender. They're projected to go into the playoff for a reason. Some people even had them as a national champion based off the number of players I've coming back, including Kate Klubnik. And, and a great receiving corps with Antonio Williams and Brian Wesco. I mean, that's a really, really good team, along with their defensive line with Peter Woods. So, I mean, it's a really, really great team, and I just don't see UNC winning that game. At Cal, this is another trap game because it's on the road. Like UCF, it's on the road, but I think for a different reason. Cal, we're talking about a 3,000-mile road trip. A 3,000-mile road trip to Berkeley, California, which is in the Bay Area. And that's an area I'm very familiar with, right? My dad was an assistant coach there in the mid-2010s, actually, ironically, under Sonny Dykes, who was the head coach of TCU. And yeah, here's the thing about Cal. The university is similar to Chapel Hill in terms of there's hills, right? You got to walk up hills and everything like that. But the stadium itself is literally on a hill, so there's altitude, right? So could altitude be an issue? I don't know, but it is it's a possibility. That's number one. Number two, like I said, the travel, 3,000 miles. It's a crazy road trip. And also you're 3 hours ahead. So this game says, it's being played at 10:30. It's actually a 7:30 game in the West Coast. So it's a 7:30 game in the West Coast, but a 10:30 game here. So how much do the time zones play a factor in this game? That'll be very interesting because I don't think a lot of these guys there's some guys from California. Of course, you got Andrew Simpson and Thad Dixon, of course. Those guys but like a lot of these guys grew up in the East, grew up in the Eastern time zone. So how will that factor into the game against Cal? That'll be very interesting. However, I do think UNC will win this game. I think they're just a better team than Cal. Cal got depleted by the transfer portal this past season, and they also lost Fernando Mendoza, who was their quarterback last year, a really good one, and he transferred to Indiana, and they had a lot of their key players transfer out. So I do expect UNC to win this game, but I do think it'll be tough. Because the factors off the field rather than on it. Then you got Virginia. Virginia, they weren't a great team last year. Well, they went 5-7. They did improve, but this is still not the Virginia teams that are under Bronco Mendenhall, where they're always going to give you trouble. Tony Elliott, I think, is a good coach, but Virginia's a very tough job. And right now it's on the hot seat. But what they did was they went out and got Chandler. What's his name? Chandler. He's the son of the former Arkansas coach. What was the guy's name? I don't know why. Chandler Morris. Yeah, sorry, I don't even know. Chandler Morris. I don't know why I had my notes up. I couldn't find it. But Chandler Morris is the quarterback. He was a 4,000-yard passer from North Texas. And that guy, he's a really good quarterback. He's an experienced quarterback. He actually started at TCU a lot, and then he got benched. And if you look at his numbers, they weren't really that bad at TCU. He had thrown for 18 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. But he just had a really bad game. They decided to make the move to Max Duggan. Not Max Duggan. It wasn't Max Duggan. It was What happened in 2023? So it wasn't Max Duggan. But they decided to make the move to Josh Hoover. I don't know why I got their names mixed up, but Josh Hoover, who, of course, is a starting quarterback right now. So that was a pretty good quarterback room, to be honest with you, over there at TCU. But yeah, he threw for over 3,500 yards at North Texas, was an All-American Conference quarterback, and now it comes with Virginia. So you have experienced field general at UVA, but their defense was so-so last year. But I think UNC is going to win this game. Last year's result, UNC won 41-14. I just think that UNC is at an advantage. I think just have a better team. I think by this point in time, I think UNC will find the chemistry needed to win a lot of football games down the stretch. Like I said, I think of course, there's a lot of unknowns. But I think if you look at the makeup of this team, by that point, Austin Blaske would be back. Christian Kelly should be healthy. So the offensive line should be better. I think the offense will find its groove. The defense will find its groove as well. I just think that, this will be a better team come October 25th. However, then you have this game against Syracuse. And Syracuse is a very interesting team because they, like Cal, they lost a good bit of players due to the transfer portal, or really mostly to graduation. A lot of their best players lost to graduation. Some of them went to the NFL draft, but this is a team that also was depleted a little bit due to the transfer portal. Well, one of the guys, Trevor Pena, was supposed to be the starting receiver, but then he transferred to Penn State. So you got a lot. So you have a lot of players you got to replace. However, Syracuse has historically been one of the their stadium, which is the JMA Wireless Dome, which I prefer to call the Carrier Dome. To me, it's always been the Carrier Dome. I don't know why they changed it. I know they're trying to make more money, but to me, I think it's easier for everyone here to call it the Carrier Dome because I think everyone knows what the Carrier Dome is because we're all college basketball fans here, so I think it's easier. But Syracuse is a very they've always had that's a very, very tough place to play. I believe they are 16-5 since in the last 3 years. It's a very, very tough place to play. It just is. It's just the way the dome's built. Of course, the dome traps a lot of crowd noise. Yeah, so they're 16-4 over the last 3 years. They've had wins over NC State in 22, which was number 15 at the time, and NC State was looking like they were a team that could be going to the SEC championship for the first time. Then they had wins over number 23 Georgia Tech and number 6 Miami last year, 2024. Of course, the latter of which spoiled Miami's hopes and dreams of going to the college football playoff. If Miami wins that game, they're going to the college football playoff. They're playing the SEC championship. It's all said and done. But they lost, and weren't able to go to the college football playoff. So Syracuse is the perfect trap game, especially when if you look at the schedule, they're coming off of 2 wins in a row, and you think you're feeling yourself, and then bam, you got to play Syracuse at the Carrier Dome. Then you got Stanford, right? Stanford, they're not a very good team. Let's just throw it out there. Let's just say it. They're not a very good team. They lost against Hawaii last night. They were in the red zone. They had a chance to go by 2 scores, and their quarterback threw an interception. Hawaii, of course, ended up tying the game on a field goal. Then Stanford got the ball back, had another chance to go down and get the game-winning score, but they didn't. They gave the ball right back to Hawaii, and then Hawaii kicked the game-winning field goal to win 23-20. And then on top of that, the kicker is from Japan. He learned how to kick a ball by watching YouTube clips. That's how he learned how to kick a football. And that's who the team Stanford lost to. Right? I'm not saying the kicker's a bad kicker or Hawaii's a bad team and blah, blah, blah. But my point is Stanford was predicted to be the worst team in the ACC. This is a very, very winnable. This is probably the most winnable game that
UNC has outside of Richmond. This is a very bad Stanford team. And if North Carolina loses this game, my God, that will be one of the worst losses at Kenan Stadium and forever. I really do think Stanford has the ability to go in 12 this year. I'm not even joking. That was the most winnable game that they had, and they blew it badly. I mean, they absolutely blew it. I mean, if you look at the rest of the schedule, at BYU, Boston College, Virginia, San Jose State, who's a pretty good game too, who's a pretty good team too, a major team. SMU, Florida State, Miami, Pitt, North Carolina, Cal, and of course Notre Dame. This is a bad team. North Carolina should win that game, and right now, and then that should be the game that puts them into bowl eligibility. Right now, of course, they're sitting with a 6-3 record. Moving on to the final 3 games of the year, which will be the Tobacco Road games at Wake Forest versus Duke and NC State. And North Carolina, in my opinion, will win 2 of these 3. I said in my article that was released today that I think they're going to win against Wake Forest. I think they're going to lose against Duke, and I think they're going to win against NC State because I think it's just the revenge factor in it. But I really do think it could be I think you can make a vice versa. I really think you could say, well, they beat Wake Forest, they beat Duke, but then they lose against NC State. Or they can win against Duke and NC State, but lose against Wake Forest. I really think, because these are all 3 of these games are rivalry games. So I really think that UNC could win 2. I think that, the best case scenario for them is the best case scenario is to win all 3 of them. But to be realistic, I think they will win 2 out of these 3. But if they win 3 out of 3, that's awesome. That's a good result, especially when all three of these games are rivalry games. You play harder in rivalry games. It's just when it's a rivalry game, you just don't know. You just don't know. Right? There have been games where UNC has been better than NC State, and NC State won. Same thing with Duke. When Mitch Trubisky was there, UNC was ranked and Duke wasn't. They actually have a down year under Cutcliffe, and Duke beat them. Wake Forest, for example. Remember when Wake Forest was undefeated for a while when Sam Hartman was there? Guess who beat them? UNC, and that was a UNC team that was struggling too in 2021. So my point is, these games were going to be close because they're rivalry games. Duke won 21-20 last year. NC State, when they beat UNC, it was 35-30. Wake Forest, that was a close game too. That was a really close game. I know UNC. I think Wake Forest scored late. I know that, but it was a 31-24 game. All 3 of these games last year were decided by 7 points or less. So, I think these 3 games are going to be really close. I think, of course, the most realistic take for me is that they win 2 out of 3, but they could very well win 3 out of 3. But everything has to fall in line. You have to be healthy. There's a lot of things that come into play in that. But I really do think that North Carolina will win 2 out of these 3. So that would leave UNC's record at 8-4. That is an improvement off of last season, which they went 6-7 last year. And of course, if you win your bowl game, you can go 9-4. That is a very successful year for Bill Belichick, right? Because a lot of people think he could go 5-7 or 6-6. A lot of people think he's just at the 500 mark. But if they go 9-4, that is a huge step in the right direction. Look at the recruiting class you're bringing in. Yes, it is the number 18 class. It's not like you're bringing a top 10 class, but you need to show the Atlantic Coast region and the country that you're a serious program. North Carolina, the university itself, is putting a lot of money into football. They're putting all of their bets on the line for Bill Belichick. They want to win. They want to be taken seriously. Remember, supposedly, they want to move out of the ACC. And that is a very likely scenario where they do. So to do that, you have to show that you're a very serious football program. And if you go 9-4, let's say you go 8-4 and win your bowl game to finish 9-4, that shows you moving in the right direction, especially after a year where you went 6-7. So I think that is a great result for North Carolina when they're predicted to win around 5 or 6 games. A lot of people think it's going to be a disaster. A lot of people think his girlfriend's controlling Bill. And also Bill does well when he is counted out. He just always has. Look at 2007. Remember the Spygate thing? Yes, he did get in trouble for that. But guess what? They went undefeated. That was the best, arguably the Bill Belichick's best team. They should have won the Super Bowl that year, but Eli Manning is really clutch in the playoffs. Then, and you know what I'm saying? Like he wants to silence it. He wants to show people they can still do it. So you have a coach who feels slighted. You have a bunch of really good you have some really good players who can do some really good things. We still don't know what they're capable of, but we know they're capable of something. And then on top of that, you have a very favorable schedule. Very favorable schedule. And I think all those things line up for North Carolina to have an 8-4 season. And they could win more. They could shock even me and go 10-2. But who knows? We won't know till toe meets lover on September 1st on a Monday night, Labor Day night to be exact, when the Tar Heels take on the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. That'll be it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry for the longer show, but it is a scheduled prediction show. I think that's, that takes some time to, process all the games and kind of give the best content possible. I'm sorry for the long video. Usually it won't be, they're not usually long, but this is kind of a special episode, I guess you could say. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Also, make sure to go give me a follow at Twitter. Last name, first name, at Sasheray Grant on Twitter. Please go do that. I'm going to be releasing a whole lot of USC content in the coming days, and we got a lot of TCU game previews. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys have a good one.